He... Her sister at the Luna ceremony. His daughter called another man Daddy. The kingdom of Lunaria was a place of silver light and deep shadows. Every 10 years, the people gathered beneath the glow of the full moon for the Luna ceremony. This was not a festival of laughter or music, though the court always tried to make it appear so. It was a night of fate and destiny, when the moon spirits themselves chose the High Guardian, the protector of the realm, a leader who would carry both authority and magic. The ceremony was beautiful and dangerous, and its consequences could change lives. Elara, the younger daughter of House Uranus, watched the preparations from behind the heavy curtains of her chamber. She had been waiting for this night all her life. Her heart beat fast as she observed the glittering hall below. Noble families from across the kingdom were arriving, their robes shining like the stars. Candles flickered along the walls, casting long shadows that danced like spirits on the cold marble floor. Her elder sister, Selene, was the center of attention. Every step she took, every turn of her head, drew eyes and whispered admiration. Selene's beauty was obvious, tall, graceful, with hair that shimmered like silver under the moonlight. Her smile could charm even the sternest lord, and her voice was soft but powerful, carrying authority in every word. She was born for the Luna ceremony. Everyone believed so, except Elara. Elara was quieter. She did not have the looks that drew immediate praise. Her strength lay in subtlety, in thought, in magic, in understanding the world in ways others could not see. She had studied the ancient texts of the moon spirits hidden in the palace library, learning spells and rituals that most of the court thought were forgotten. Yet tonight, all her preparations seemed invisible beside her sister's dazzling presence. The ceremony began as the moon rose high. The grand doors opened, and the sisters stepped into the hall together, though the world seemed to notice only Selene. Elara held her chin high, hiding the ache in her chest. She watched as her sister approached King Alaric, the ruler of Lunaria, whose dark eyes reflected the silver glow of the moon. Alaric was both feared and admired, a man of immense power and quiet mystery. He did not smile often, and when he did, it seemed to shift the air around him, commanding attention. Tonight, all eyes were on him. Selene knelt before him with a perfect bow. Her hand hovered near the ceremonial moon chalice, a sacred vessel that held the light of the first moon. As Alaric extended his hand toward her, the hall seemed to hold its breath. The moonlight shone directly on her face, highlighting every graceful curve and hint of determination. The court erupted into quiet whispers of awe. Elara's stomach tightened. She wanted to step forward, to show her own worth, but she knew the rules. The Luna ceremony was not for pleading or protest. It was for proving oneself through the spirits' judgment, and the spirits, for reasons Elara could not yet understand, seemed to favor Selene. When the moment of selection came, the moonlight strengthened, bathing Selene in a soft silver glow. The chalice shimmered, and a gentle wind seemed to sweep through the hall, carrying whispers of the spirit's approval. Alaric's hand rested lightly on Selene's shoulder. The choice was clear. Selene was named the High Guardian of the Moon. Applause and quiet gasps filled the hall. Selene's eyes sparkled, a mixture of pride and relief. She stood gracefully, accepting the honor, as if it were the only path she had ever wanted. Elara clapped, though her hands shook. Her heart felt like it had been locked in ice. She should have been happy. Her sister had been chosen, yes, but what did that mean for her own life? The ceremony ended, and the court retired to private chambers. Elara lingered behind, stepping into the shadowed corridors of the palace. She wandered until she reached the small nursery where her daughter Leora was sleeping. Leora was the one bright spot in Elara's life. The child had her mother's eyes, dark, observant, full of life.
Yet, as Elara approached, she heard something that made her pause.
Daddy!
Leora's small voice rang out as Milo, the royal protector, knelt beside the crib.
He lifted the child gently, and she clung to him as if he had always been hers. Elora froze. Milo, the man who had sworn loyalty to her family, who had always been her protector, was holding her daughter, and Leora, her little girl, called him Daddy. The word cut deeper than any dagger. She felt a storm of shock, confusion, and betrayal rise in her chest. Milo turned, his expression caught between guilt and calm. "Elara," he said softly, "I never wanted to hide this. I only wanted to protect her. And you." Elara's eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them back. "Protect her? By letting her call you?"
She could not finish the sentence. The hurt was too raw.
Milo took a careful step forward. "I promised your mother I would watch over her line. Leora, she trusts me, and I would never let harm touch her. Not while I live." "I never meant to hurt you."
Elara looked away, her mind spinning.
She wanted to be angry, to shout, to demand answers. But her daughter's tiny fingers clung to Milo's shirt, trusting him completely. Could she truly blame the child? No. But what about herself?
What about the love she had secretly harbored for Milo? A love she had never spoken aloud?
The night stretched on. The palace outside shimmered with moonlight, music, and laughter. But inside the nursery, time seemed to stop. Elora sank into a chair, staring at her daughter and Milo, trying to understand the tangled threads of loyalty, duty, and love that now bound them all. As she watched, she realized something else. Celine's triumph at the Luna ceremony was not the only danger looming. Magic had a way of bending desire and will, and the moon spirits often acted through subtle signs. Elara's own power, hidden and untested, might be needed sooner than she had imagined. The faint whisper of moonlight against the window seemed almost like a warning. The next day, the court gathered to celebrate Celine's appointment. Elara moved among the nobles quietly, nodding and smiling as required. Her heart, however, was elsewhere. She watched Milo, who stayed close to Leora, and she felt a complicated ache. He was hers in some ways, yet the world seemed determined to claim him for her sister, or at least to keep him from her entirely. Celine approached her, radiant and poised. "Elara," she said, her voice smooth. "You must be proud. The spirits have chosen me." Elara managed a small nod.
"You deserve this, Celine," she said softly.
Her words were true in one sense. Celine had always been strong, capable, and charming, but in her chest a bitter taste lingered. She felt unseen, unrecognized. Celine smiled, eyes glittering.
"And yet you watch everything so carefully."
"You always notice what others miss. Perhaps one day the moon will favor you, as it has me." The words should have comforted her, but they did not. There was a hidden challenge in Celine's tone, and Elara sensed that the next 10 years would not be easy. Celine's rise would bring power, but also danger. As the sun set and the moon rose again, Elara returned to the nursery. Leora was asleep, Milo standing quietly beside the crib. For the first time, he looked at her not just as protector, but as something more. "Elara," he said, "I want you to know, whatever comes, I will not leave you. Not her."
"Not you."
Could she trust him? Could she trust herself to accept what her heart longed for, even if the world seemed determined to pull it away? She looked at Milo, then at her daughter, and whispered, "I don't know yet." The moon rose higher, silver light spilling across the floor. Outside the window, the palace garden glimmered, shadows moving as if alive. Elara felt the stirrings of something deep within her, a magic she had not yet fully understood, but one she knew would soon demand attention. And then, a chill wind swept through the nursery. The curtains fluttered, and Leora stirred, murmuring in her sleep. The moonlight flickered strangely, almost as if warning. Something had been set in motion tonight. Something beyond choice, beyond ceremony. And Elara knew, with a quiet certainty, that the events of this night would change everything. She leaned back in the chair, holding her daughter close. The world outside glittered with celebration, but within her, a storm of longing, fear, and determination raged. The Luna ceremony had chosen Selene, but the true test, the challenge of love, loyalty, and magic, was only just beginning. And as the first full moon of the decade shone brightest, Elara felt it, a whisper from the spirits, a warning in the shadows. The night is not yet done, and destiny has not yet spoken. The day after the Luna ceremony, the palace of Lunaria felt heavier than usual. The silver moon still shone high above, its light falling like a quiet judgment across the rooftops and marble halls. Inside, Elara moved silently, her mind tangled with thoughts she could not share with anyone, not Selene, not Milo, not even the court. The echoes of last night's events haunted her, Selene's triumph, Milo's closeness to her daughter, and the whisper of moonlight that had felt like a warning. Elara had always known her life would be difficult. She was the younger daughter, quiet, thoughtful, and gifted in ways others often overlooked. She did not shine like Selene, whose beauty and charm drew attention effortlessly. But her magic, the kind the moon spirits whispered about in the hidden texts she had studied, was subtle, dangerous, and unseen. And tonight, Elara realized it might be needed more than ever. She found herself wandering through the gardens after sunset. The palace courtyards were empty, except for the faint rustle of leaves and the soft glow of lanterns. She drew a deep breath, letting the cool night air fill her lungs, and thought about Leora. Her little daughter's trust in Milo both warmed her heart and twisted it with pain. Elara knew Milo cared for her. She could see it in his eyes, but she also knew that the child's love for him was pure, innocent, and unchangeable. How could she compete with that bond? And what would the court think if they discovered the truth? "Thinking too much again, Elara!" A voice called softly from the shadows. She turned to see Milo stepping from behind a tree, his dark armor glinting faintly in the moonlight. His expression was calm, almost tender, but there was a weight in his eyes that made her heart skip. "I could ask you the same," she said quietly, trying to mask the tremor in her voice. "I have duties," he replied, "and sometimes duties and heart pull in different directions." He took a careful step closer, his gaze falling on her face. "But your heart, it is stronger than you believe." Elara swallowed, feeling emotions she had long tried to hide rising to the surface. She wanted to tell him everything, about her magic, her fears, and her longing, but words failed her. Instead, she only nodded and turned away, letting the wind carry her silent frustration. The days passed slowly, each one filled with tension. Selene's power at court grew quickly. Lords and ladies whispered her name with admiration, praising her beauty, her wit, and her new position as High Guardian. King Alaric's gaze lingered on her more often than ever, and even when he looked at Elara, his eyes seemed to weigh her, judging her silently. Elara tried to stay in the background, but she could not ignore the feeling that danger was close. The moon spirits had always been gentle in their guidance, but lately, their whispers had turned sharper, more insistent. They warned of imbalance, of jealousy and ambition that could bring harm to the innocent, and Elara feared for her daughter. One night, while the moon was high, Leora fell ill. It was sudden, a deep sleep that would not lift, and her tiny body shook as if a cold wind had passed through her. Elara's heart pounded with fear. She called Milo immediately. He arrived without hesitation, scooping Leora into his arms with careful hands. "She's safe," he said softly, but Elara could see the concern in his eyes. "But something is wrong. This is not a simple illness. It is tied to the ceremony."
I have felt it in the
Ilara's breath caught. A curse, she whispered. The word itself felt dangerous, heavy with possibility. Milo nodded. I do not know its source yet, but we must act quickly. The spirits of the moon often choose whom to protect, but dark intentions can twist even their power. Someone, or something, wants to harm her. Ilara felt a surge of determination. She would not let anything happen to Leora. She remembered the hidden texts she had studied, the spells that could shield and protect, the magic that could challenge even the strongest forces. She would act, even if it meant stepping into danger. Together, she and Milo went to the ancient moon chamber beneath the palace, a place where only the High Guardian and those deemed worthy could enter. The chamber walls glowed faintly with inscriptions, silver runes etched into the stone. The air was thick with magic, carrying both promise and warning. Ilara knelt, placing her hands on the cold floor. Milo knelt beside her, his presence steadying her as she began to summon the protective magic. Her voice rose in a soft chant, words taught to her by the moon spirits in secret. The runes began to glow brighter, pulsing with energy that matched her heartbeat. Leora stirred in Milo's arms, small fingers gripping his armor. The child was calm, but Ilara knew the danger had not passed. Her magic flowed stronger, weaving a shield around Leora that shimmered like silver threads in the moonlight. But as she worked, a shadow flickered at the edge of the chamber. Celine. You should not be here, Ilara, Celine said, her voice calm but sharp, like a blade hidden beneath silk. She stepped into the light, her presence filling the room. This is the High Guardian's domain. You overstep your bounds.
Ilara did not falter.
She is my daughter, she said, her voice steady. No one can harm her, not even you, Celine. Celine's lips curved into a small, almost sorrowful smile. You misunderstand, little sister. I would never harm her intentionally. But the ceremony has set things in motion, things you do not yet understand. Your daughter is connected to the moon now, as much as I am, perhaps more. And the spirits are watching closely.
Ilara's heart sank. She had hoped to protect Leora without interference, but now it seemed the danger was larger than she had imagined.
The moon spirits were not simply observers. They were active, judging every choice, weighing every action. And Celine, for all her charm, was a force to be reckoned with. Then we act together, Milo said quietly, his voice firm. We protect her. Whatever comes. Celine's eyes narrowed slightly. Be careful, Milo. Choosing sides can be dangerous. Sometimes, the path you think is right leads to ruin. The warning hung in the air, but Ilara and Milo continued their ritual. The protective shield around Leora glowed brighter, shimmering with magic that pulsed like the heartbeat of the moon itself. Slowly, Leora's breathing steadied, and the child's small eyes fluttered open. Relief washed over Ilara, but it was tempered by the knowledge that the danger was far from over. Afterward, Ilara walked through the quiet palace halls, Milo close behind her. They spoke little, letting the silence carry their shared understanding. The events of the night had brought them closer, yet the unspoken tension between them lingered. Both were aware of the bond forming, not just between themselves, but between their hearts and the fragile thread of destiny that connected them all. Days turned into weeks, and the palace returned to a fragile calm. Celine continued to rise in influence, her every step watched by nobles eager to curry favor. Ilara remained in the shadows, quietly observing, learning, and preparing. She knew the spirits' warnings were not idle. There were forces at work, hidden enemies, jealous courtiers, and perhaps even darker magic that threatened everything she held dear. One evening, as the moon rose full and bright, Ilara found herself in the palace library, poring over ancient texts for answers. Milo joined her quietly, standing in the doorway with a soft smile.
"You work too hard," he said, though his eyes showed admiration. "The moon favors the persistent, yes, but even persistent hearts need rest."
"I cannot rest while danger is near. I do not know who is behind this, but I feel it. Something waits. Watching, waiting for a mistake. Whatever it is, we face it together. You, me, and Leora. Always." She wanted to reach for him, to lean on him, but she also feared what the court and Celine might think. Her heart was a battlefield, torn between duty, desire, and the unspoken truths that hovered like shadows in the moonlight. And then, the whisper came. A faint voice, carried on the wind through the open window. Elara turned sharply. The library was empty, but the words lingered in her mind. "The night has begun, and the shadows are watching. Power and love will collide, and only those who understand the balance will survive."
Elara knew the moon spirits were speaking. Their words were not just a warning, they were a promise.
The events of the Luna ceremony, Celine's triumph, Milo's loyalty, and her own hidden power were all threads in a tapestry that had yet to be completed. She clenched her fists, determination hardening within her. She would protect Leora. She would face Celine no matter how difficult. And she would embrace the magic within her, no matter the cost. But as she looked at Milo, standing quietly beside her, she knew the path ahead would not be simple. Love, loyalty, and magic were tangled in ways that could not be untangled without risk, and the first real test was coming. One that could change their lives forever. The moonlight spilled across the library floor, casting shadows that seemed to move like living creatures. Elara felt the stirrings of a future both terrifying and beautiful, a future where the choices she made would ripple across the kingdom, touching hearts, destinies, and the very spirits that watched from the heavens. And as the first hints of a dark wind stirred the trees outside, she realized the truth. The Luna ceremony was only the beginning. The real challenge, the challenge of heart, power, and destiny, was yet to come. The moon hung high over the palace of Lunaria, silver light spilling across the stone courtyards. Inside, tension clung to the walls like a living thing. Elara could feel it in every step, every whisper, every glance she exchanged with Milo. Since the Luna ceremony, the world had shifted beneath her feet. Celine's rise to power had not slowed, and the court's whispers had grown sharper. Every noble seemed to weigh Elara differently now, their eyes full of curiosity, suspicion, or envy. Elara had expected this, but she had not expected the deep ache in her own heart. Seeing Celine at the center of the kingdom, favored by the king, admired by the court, made a hollow space inside her chest. And yet, as she watched her daughter Leora laughing in Milo's arms, she realized that some joys were unshakable, even in the shadows. One evening, as the moon reached its peak, Elara found herself walking the quiet corridors of the palace, her thoughts heavy. She had learned to sense the subtle currents of magic, to feel the invisible threads of influence in the court. Tonight, those threads tugged at her urgently. Something was coming. Something dangerous. She was not wrong.
In the high hall, lit by the glow of the moon, Celine waited. Her expression was calm, almost serene, but her eyes held a glint of steel.
She had grown stronger since the ceremony, not just in skill, but in confidence. Celine knew the court, the king, and the spirits themselves, and she wielded that knowledge like a weapon. "Do not think you can hide from me, Elara," Celine said as Elara stepped into the hall. Her voice was smooth, controlled, but carried a quiet power that made the air tremble. "I see the way you watch. I know the way you care for Milo."
"You think loyalty alone protects your daughter, but loyalty can be tested." Elara squared her shoulders, refusing to shrink from her sister.
"I am not hiding," she said, her voice steady. I protect my daughter.
And I will do whatever it takes. Celine's smile was small, almost sad. You are brave, little sister. Perhaps too brave for your own good. The moon watches all, and sometimes courage alone is not enough to survive what is coming.
The words sent a shiver down Elara's spine. The moon spirits had warned her of imbalance, of ambition, of forces unseen.
And Selene, for all her charm, was now part of that unseen force, her ambitions entwined with the fate of the kingdom. Milo appeared in the doorway, his presence calm but resolute.
Elara is not alone,
He said, voice low but firm.
Whatever comes, I stand with her.
Leor stands with her.
And the kingdom. Perhaps it will learn that true strength comes from heart, not just position. Celine's eyes flicked to Milo, and for a moment her calm mask wavered. There was a flicker of something unspoken, envy, fear, perhaps even recognition of what they had together. But she quickly hid it behind a composed smile. You are bold, Milo, Selene said softly, almost approvingly. Boldness can save, but it can also destroy.
Elara felt the weight of Celine's words, but she did not falter. The protective magic she had woven around Leora in the moon chamber remained strong, glowing faintly in the corner of her mind.
Yet she knew this was only the beginning. Someone, or something, was testing her, and tonight, the test had begun. The first sign came as a flicker of shadows in the hall. The light from the moon seemed to bend, stretching into shapes that moved like living creatures. Elara felt a familiar stir of magic in the air. She knew immediately this was no ordinary shadow. It was drawn to fear, desire, and weakness. Milo stepped closer to her, his hand brushing against hers, not by accident. Stay close, he whispered. Do not let them see you afraid. Elara nodded, and together they faced the darkness. Slowly the shadows gathered, coalescing into a form that was both human and not. It was tall, cloaked in black, with eyes like molten silver. Elara recognized the signs instantly. This was a spirit corrupted by ambition, a creature of shadow sent to test her resolve. Selene stepped forward, her own hands glowing faintly with moonlight. This is your choice, Elara, she said quietly. Will you fight with me? Or against me? Elara's heart pounded. She did not understand fully what Selene meant, but she knew she could not hesitate. The shadows surged forward, and Elara raised her hands, summoning the energy of the moon. Light flowed from her fingers, weaving into a protective barrier around herself, Milo, and Leora. The shadow hissed and recoiled, but it did not retreat. Milo drew his sword, the blade catching the moonlight. He moved with precision and grace, guiding Elara through the movements of defense. Together they formed a circle of light and protection, their magic and courage intertwining like threads in a tapestry. The shadow lashed out again, striking the barrier. Elara felt a surge of fear. Fear for herself, fear for her daughter, fear of what could happen if they failed. But Milo's presence grounded her. His steady gaze, unwavering courage, reminded her of the bond they shared, and she found strength in it. Suddenly, the shadow shrieked, a sound that cut through the air like a blade. It recoiled, twisting violently, then vanished into a swirl of silver smoke. The hall fell silent, the echoes of the encounter lingering in the air like smoke. Elara collapsed to her knees, exhausted but alive. Milo knelt beside her, brushing a strand of hair from her face. You did well, he said softly. Stronger than I imagined.
Elara looked at him, feeling a mixture of relief, gratitude, and longing.
I could not have done it without you, she admitted. Her voice was barely above a whisper, but it carried the weight of truth. Milo's hand found hers, and he held it tightly.
"And I could not have done it without you," he replied.
You are not just brave, Alara. You are...
Extraordinary. For a moment, time seemed to stop. The moonlight shone around them, and the hall felt suspended between past and future, danger and hope. But then Selene spoke again, breaking the fragile peace. "You think this proves anything?" Selene asked, her tone calm but dangerous. "The spirits are watching, and they are not done. Power, heart, and ambition will collide soon."
Do not be naive, little sister.
The real challenge lies ahead, and it will test everything you hold dear. Elara's chest tightened. She knew Selene was right. The moon spirits had given her strength tonight. But that strength was only a shield, not a solution. The balance of power, love, and magic in the kingdom was delicate. One wrong move could shatter it completely. Over the next days, Elara trained quietly, in secret. She honed her magic, learning to channel the moon's energy more precisely. Milo remained close, guiding her and protecting Leora. Their bond grew stronger, built on shared danger and unspoken emotions. Yet the shadow of Selene's power always lingered, a constant reminder that the path ahead was fraught with peril. One night, while practicing near the palace gardens, Elara sensed a presence behind her. She spun, hands raised, ready for defense. But it was not a shadow or a spirit. It was Selene. "You are improving," Selene said quietly, almost admiringly. "The moon has gifted you power, and perhaps determination. But beware, power without wisdom can destroy more than it saves."
Elara lowered her hands slightly, her voice steady. "I do not seek to destroy,
only to protect." Selene's eyes softened for a moment, then hardened again.
And yet, protection can lead to danger, little sister.
The court watches. The spirits watch. Even the man you trust may not see the full truth. Alara's heart skipped. Milo's loyalty was unshakable, or so she had believed. But Selene's words planted a seed of doubt, a reminder that in a world ruled by magic and ambition, nothing was certain. Later that night, as Alara returned to the nursery, she found Milo sitting quietly with Leora in his lap. The child's eyes were bright, full of trust and innocence. Elara felt a surge of love and determination. No matter what challenges came, she would protect them both. Milo looked up as she entered.
"You are weary," he said softly, "but your strength grows each day."
And soon, the truth will reveal itself. The spirits will guide us.
Elara nodded, drawing a deep breath. She knew he was right, but a quiet unease lingered in her mind.
The spirit's guidance was not always clear, and Selene's ambition was a force she could not ignore. The coming days would test her courage, her love, and her magic in ways she could not yet imagine. And as the moonlight fell over the palace, Elara felt a whisper in the shadows, soft, almost playful, yet full of warning. The night is not over, and destiny will demand its choice. She held Leora close, feeling the warmth of Milo's hand on her shoulder. Whatever the spirits required, whatever danger awaited, she would face it. The Luna ceremony had chosen Selene. The shadows had tested her. But the heart, courage, and magic that burned within Elara were hers alone, and they were far from spent. The moon hung full and bright over the palace of Lunaria, bathing the world in silver light. The air was still heavy with expectation. Tonight, Elara knew everything would come to a head. The shadows, the ambitions, the choices of the heart, and the test of magic that had been building since the Luna ceremony. She stood at the edge of the palace courtyard, the wind tugging at her hair, her heart steady with determination. Beside her, Milo adjusted the strap of his sword. He had been her protector, her guide, and in quiet moments, her confidant. Together they had faced shadows, magic, and danger. Together they had shielded Leora, their hearts bound in ways the court and even the spirits could sense. And yet, the coming challenge would not be simple. The high hall doors opened, and Celine appeared. She glided forward, her robes shining like silver threads, her eyes calm but sharp.
"Elara," she said, her voice echoing in the courtyard. "The time has come. The spirits demand truth."
The balance must be tested. Tonight we decide who is worthy and who is not.
Elara
squared her shoulders. She did not flinch, though the weight of the moment pressed against her chest.
"I am ready,"
she said softly, her voice carrying across the courtyard.
"I will protect my daughter and the kingdom,
whatever comes."
Celine's gaze softened for a brief moment.
"You have grown stronger than I expected, little sister, but strength is not enough."
Heart, courage, and wisdom will be judged tonight. The noble families, the guards, and even servants had gathered at a distance, watching as the two sisters faced one another under the moon's gaze. Above them, the moon spirits stirred, unseen but powerful, their whispers carrying through the night air. Then the first sign appeared, a ripple of shadow along the walls, twisting and coiling like smoke. The corrupted spirit from before returned, larger and more menacing, its eyes burning with silver fire. It shrieked, a sound that rattled the bones and made the ground tremble. Elara felt a surge of fear, but she did not falter. Milo stepped beside her, placing a steadying hand on her shoulder. "Together," he whispered. Elara nodded, and together they focused on their bond, heart, courage, and magic intertwined. The shadow lunged. Elara raised her hands, drawing on the moon's power, weaving a shield around herself, Milo, and Leora, who had been brought safely to a nearby chamber by trusted guards. Light burst from her palms, silver threads spinning outward, striking the shadow with force. Celine raised her hands as well, her own magic weaving into the attack. But unlike before, she did not aim to destroy. It was a test, a challenge, to see how far Elara had grown. The shadow shrieked, twisting violently between the combined magic of the sisters, and for a moment, it seemed unstoppable. Elara felt exhaustion wash over her. Her magic, her courage, even her heart was being tested beyond anything she had imagined. But she did not let it break her. She closed her eyes, feeling the rhythm of the moon, the heartbeat of the spirits, and the steady presence of Milo beside her. She focused on the truth that had guided her from the beginning, the love for her daughter, the bond with Milo, and the quiet strength she had always carried within herself. A sudden clarity came to her. This was not just a battle of power. It was a balance of heart, of intention, of choice. She shifted the energy of her magic, not to strike, but to guide, to weave a path that led the shadow away from harm. The silver threads of her power wrapped around it gently, containing its chaos without destroying it. The shadow shrieked one last time and dissolved into silver mist, swirling upward toward the moon. The courtyard fell silent. Elara's chest heaved, exhaustion and relief mingling as she sank to her knees. Milo knelt beside her immediately, brushing her hair from her face. "You did it," he said softly. "Stronger than I ever imagined." Celine stepped forward, her expression unreadable. Then, slowly, she smiled, a small, almost genuine smile.
You have proven yourself, Elara.
"The spirits see your courage, your heart, and your wisdom."
"You are worthy, not just as a protector, but as a force in your own right."
Elara's eyes filled with tears, not of sadness, but of relief and triumph.
The long struggle, the fear, the shadows, all of it had led to this moment. She had faced the test, protected her daughter, and proven the truth of her own strength. Milo took her hand, holding it tightly. "I never doubted you," he whispered, "not for a moment. And for the first time in what felt like a lifetime, Elara allowed herself to believe in hope, in the power of love, and in the strength that came from standing together.
Celine stepped aside, allowing the court to approach.
The nobles murmured in awe and respect, their previous doubts replaced with recognition. Even King Alaric approached, his dark eyes reflecting pride and careful approval. "Elara," he said softly, "you have faced danger and proven yourself. You honor not just your family, but the kingdom itself." The spirits are pleased. Elara bowed, a mix of humility and quiet pride in her posture. She felt the weight of responsibility, but she also felt freedom, the freedom that comes from understanding one's own strength. Later, as the celebrations quieted and the moon hung like a silent guardian above the palace, Elara returned to the nursery. Leora slept peacefully, a soft smile on her lips. Milo knelt beside the crib, watching over the child as he always had. Elara sat beside him, her hand brushing against his. "We made it," she whispered. Milo smiled, his eyes gentle and full of warmth. "Yes, and now we can begin to live, not just survive, but truly live."
Elara looked at him, feeling a depth of emotion she had never known before. The past struggles, the jealousy, the shadows, they had all led them to this moment.
Together they could face whatever the future held. And yet, even as relief washed over her, she knew the journey was not truly over. The spirits had tested them, the shadows had challenged them, and Celine's ambition would always be a force to consider. But, for now, the balance had been restored, the heart had been honored, and love had survived. Celine appeared at the doorway, her presence calm, almost serene.
"You have proven your strength, Elara," she said softly.
"And you have earned my respect. The kingdom is safe for now, and the spirits have chosen wisely."
Elara nodded, meeting her sister's gaze without fear. "Thank you, Celine."
"For the truth, and for letting me protect what matters most." Celine's smile was faint but genuine. "Perhaps one day we will find a way to walk the same path without conflict. But until then, we must each follow the course we are given." Elara understood. She had grown stronger, wiser, and braver through every trial. And she knew that no matter what the future held, she would face it with Milo and Leora by her side. Together they had survived the shadows, proven their hearts, and honored the spirits of the moon. As the first light of dawn touched the palace, Elara stood at the balcony, watching the kingdom below. The streets were quiet, the people unaware of the trials that had unfolded under the moon's glow. But she knew. She and her family had endured, and they had emerged stronger for it. Milo joined her, resting his hand lightly on her shoulder. "The night is behind us," he said softly. "And the day belongs to us." Elara nodded, feeling a sense of peace she had not known for years. "Yes," she said, "and no matter what comes next, we will face it together." Leora's laughter echoed from the nursery, a sound of innocence and joy that warmed Elara's heart. The kingdom had its guardian, the spirits had been honored, and love had survived the shadows. And for the first time, Elara allowed herself to hope, not just for survival, but for happiness, for family, and for the life she had fought so hard to protect. The moon, now setting behind the horizon, left a soft glow in the sky, a promise that the balance of magic, heart, and courage would endure. Elara, Milo, and Leora stood together in the quiet of the morning, a family forged in trials, strengthened by love, and ready for whatever destiny would bring next. The palace doors closed behind them, but the whispers of the moon spirits lingered, a reminder that the world was vast, the future uncertain, and the power of heart and courage eternal.